I love the team aspect of attacking. It was amazing being on a team and felt like brothers going into a fight together. A lot of people are in it for the quick wins. There's more of a grind, a mental grind that you have to prepare yourself for sales. It's not what it's all cracked up to be. It's, oh, you get to golf. You get to have lunch with people.
Well, welcome to the Engineer Success Podcast. I'm excited today because we're going to be diving into Caleb's story and what's gotten him to where he's at today. As you know, if you watch some of the Engineer Success Podcast episodes in the past, we talked to entrepreneurs, business leaders, and people like you and me who are on their journey to understand what success is and also the most efficient path to get there. And Caleb, just excited to have you in the studio today.
No, thank you so much. It's great to, be with like-minded individuals like yourself. So really excited to dive into this conversation.
Oh man, we're going to have a blast.
Yeah.
And especially because we're going to start all the way back just by digging into your history and your childhood, man.
Yeah.
Well, nothing like starting it off with a bang. So let's get started.
Yeah. I always like saying that. Well, I'm going to start from where my business life started.
Okay, cool.
Right. And it really started when, my dad and mom back in, I believe, middle school, uh, said, "Hey, Caleb, we would love to get you into woodworking. It's a really exciting thing to do." And I was kind of a busybody, like most boys in a middle school, and so they connected me with someone at my church. He owned a cabinet shop just down the road, and I really started sweeping floors and did that for about 2 to 3 years, and super thankful for all the lessons that he taught me. And
How old were you again at this place?
yeah, I was like 11 or 12. It was really, really early on. And, they said, "Hey, go spend some time with him." And
Yeah.
he was really gracious. He gave me a broom and said, Here's a shop. Here's the saws. Learn it."
Here's the saws at 11.
Yes. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Turn them on, play with them. No, it was more of a, just learning, seeing how he did his business and, did his carpentry. And over time, over the next 3 years working with him in the summers, just because, yeah, I'm in middle school. Like, he probably didn't want me there the whole time, rightfully so. But he invested in me, showed me how to, use the routing table, joiner, started making cabinets with him, spray booth, working all that. And he was just really asked me really profound questions too. He was really great individual, and I owe a lot of success from that experience.
Yeah. And at 11 and working for a carpenter, I think I did something similar. And I think it was called the gopher. I just go for stuff.
Yo, it was like,
Hey, I need this tool, or hey, I need the broom kind of thing, and go grab it.
yeah, and it tied in really well with what my father taught me even before that, and still to this day, is just hard work. My dad is an amazing example of hard work and diligence. He's worked at UPS, I think, for 40 years now, driving truck downtown Grand Rapids, and now he's actually in Allendale. But he's just a hard worker, and that's something that just was instilled in me from day one. And so, yeah, after I started working at the carpenters, he plugged me in with a wood flooring gentleman that also shared the shop with him, and worked my way through that. And that was great. I got to see these massive houses on Lake Macatawa. It was wonderful.
So you grew up here in Grand Rapids area, West Michigan.
Yep.
Would you go to Zealand then, or
No, yeah, I went to 3 high schools.
okay?
So I went to Freedom Christian for my junior year. Before that, I was at Hudsonville Public for a couple years, and God really called me back to Freedom my junior year. And the summer of my junior to senior year, it closed.
Okay.
Didn't have enough students. They had some funding issues, and so I remember sitting there with my parents and them asking, "Where do you want to go?" And I went to Zion after that, Zion Christian right in Vine Center. So kind of spread out in the West Michigan area. So
And were you an only child?
no, so I had 3 older sisters,
Okay.
so I'm the youngest of 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And all of them did the same high school kind of approach, or they do something different?
Different for, uh, one of them. So Caden's my oldest sister. She went to Freedom her whole life, and her goal was always to be a mom, and she's a mom and a wonderful mom of 3 kids. And then my sister Courtney is went to Hudsonville after going to Freedom till 7th grade. So Courtney and I did the same transition. I went from Freedom to Hudsonville at 8th grade. So Courtney did that, and then she graduated from Hudsonville. And then Carissa went from K to 12 at Freedom.
So I know we haven't dove too much into this, but just from the ways that you've described your dad and his work ethic and the ways that he set you up as a high school student, middle school student, for success, it seems like he was intentional in some of those areas, not only to display some of it, but also to put you around some of the right
Yeah,
individuals growing up. I know that's a big part of it.
yeah, and the hard thing with his role in what he does at UPS, he's a driver, so he's early mornings, late nights. I remember him getting home at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, right? So before you know, I was already in bed most nights. It's a very demanding job, right? And he does it very well, but he, you know, instilled that work ethic. But even on the weekends, I remember we had this one day. I remember this vividly. I think I was 8 years old, and we had our van that we were working on and putting brakes on, and I was 8 years old, holding the flashlight, and we put the brakes on, and we did it wrong. The calipers were stuck, and so they're just grinding the brakes down, smoke coming out of the van. But yeah, he said, "Hey, let's do it right. Let's get this thing done. Let's figure it out." And it's just one of those memories where it's do it right, get it done right, and it doesn't matter if it takes more time. Let's just get it done. So yeah, he's instilled that from early age, I would say.
I love that as an example for you, not only of like working hard, but if it's worth doing right.
Yeah,
And if you don't get it right the first time, it's okay. Go back and fix it.
yeah,
Don't just leave it be, right?
yeah,
And I think we can tie that back to business in a lot of different scenarios, right? Like people are so nervous to make that first decision because they don't want it to be the wrong decision. So they're afraid. Perfectionism, right? I'm afraid because it's got to be perfect, got to be perfect. But the nice thing about making a decision is now you get new information that comes back to you so you can make another decision. And it's a better one next time.
yeah. What have you experienced? Was your father figure like that? Did he do the same thing for you?
Yeah, so you're pulling in some scenarios that are, parallel examples to me growing up. And my father was a carpenter, owned his own business, kind of doing construction, right? Also, when I bring in the like, hey, go for it, that was me, right? I was young. I ever since I was little, I loved the opportunity to go out and just like sit and like watch and spend time with my dad, who was like custom cabinetry maker, right? Out in the shop out by our house. I was homeschooled, so I could spend a little bit more time doing that. Actually, sometimes I probably spent more time than I should because there's this little stool in the corner of my dad's shop. And anytime that I got in trouble with my mom, I had to go sit on that stool. And my dad would just like let me sit there for 30 minutes or 45 minutes and just like,
Yeah, yeah.
think about my life.
Yeah, and then you go mess around with someone, and
So I got the chance to watch him a lot more than maybe I tried to sometimes. But so, yeah, definitely a hard worker and, opportunity to learn how to do something really well and be a craftsman in that area. And I love your story of working with your hands when you're little, right? You get the concepts of like, yes, how to think about something, but actually how to do it, right? When it comes to building or working with flooring or putting calipers on a car, you do actually feel, okay, this is what it takes. This is actually a lot of work.
yeah.
Appreciate it a little bit more.
It's a lot of work, and this was before YouTube, right? We didn't know what we were doing sometimes, but I mean, my father grew up on a dairy farm, so he had to know a lot about a lot, and I'm so blessed by that example of, hey, if you get it wrong, just do it right the next time, or try again, fall down, get up, try it again, and that's been awesome to go through that.
Did you play sports or anything in high school?
Yeah, yeah. I played soccer all my life since I was 3 years old. So I played soccer year round. and then I played basketball as well.
And what do you like most about sports?
Competition. I loved the team aspect of attacking. It was amazing being on a team, and there's certain teams where it was different. It felt like brothers going into a fight together, and I loved just the grind of the season. I loved practice. I loved being with the guys in the locker room. I always say there's a lot of good locker room guys, and those conversations that you have there build you into the character that you are today. And a lot of those coaches stuck with me. I mean, I had one of my coaches from 8th grade when I was at Hudsonville Public at the middle school, Dan Moose. He has massive impact on my life. He coached me in 8th grade, and then when I transferred back to Freedom, my sophomore, junior year, he became the head coach of basketball at Freedom. And then when Freedom closed, he became the head coach at Zion Christian. So he saw clips of who I was as a person growing up. And still to this day, we send texts to each other. Not as often because life is busy. I got 2 and 1 on the way very soon. But yeah, he's had massive impact. And also Todd Hookstra, one of my soccer coaches at Zion, he just had a massive impact on my life.
He brought up like locker room conversations and the camaraderie and the team that gets built out of sports. But I feel like I've heard the opposite in some of those scenarios, just kind of like in whether it's high school settings or in, locker room settings or things you've had. Like sometimes it is a scenario in a space that builds an individual up, and other times it's the opposite. Do you feel like that space was a positive experience for you because of that coach?
Yeah, yeah. One other coach was Nate Sharp, who uh, was an amazing soccer coach, but also a man of Christ. He said, "I don't care if this team is great. I care if you become a good person." And he would hold Bible studies. We'd have devotions before every practice. We'd pray before every practice, and the team, from the worst person on the team to the best person on the team, it didn't matter who you were, if you were great, you were part of the team. It was so special. My junior year, it was one of the top moments in my high school career where all the guys just got along and built each other up, and we would hang out every day of the week, and we would sit at a separate table because we just loved being around each other, and it just built really a really great atmosphere for me to grow into.
Now I'm curious, though, like through that, with that coach coming in and giving you that story of, hey, it doesn't matter how great we are as a team, but like in performance wise, but we're great people.
Yeah.
That how did that land on you when you are so competitive and you wanted to win? You had a little push pull there, I assume.
Yeah, it's it was it's difficult because you can't measure the change in characteristics, right? You can't say each day, "Oh, I became better in humility." Yeah, as sales guys usually struggle in humility. I have those bouts of struggle.
I'm awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What are you talking about? I don't struggle in that. Uh, but you can't measure, what type of person you are day to day. You just got to rely on, the work in Christ and prayer and the constant reflection of yourself. And yeah, it was difficult and still struggle with that today, as a competitor in the workspace. It's great to chase after the jobs that I'm going after in construction, but it's also, you know, you got to be a good person. That's still to this day the number one thing. You have to be a good person. So yeah, there's a push pull, right? And you got to find that balance of pulling back that competitor and realizing dying to the career, because in the end, the priorities are with the divine, God first, spouse second, kids all the same, and everything else. That is the priorities in life. And I sometimes will have the tendency to put my career goals as number one, because I can measure it and I can take control of that. But I need to rely on Christ to put those priorities in line, and I need to do the work as well.
Well, that was interesting something that you said, and I don't know if I've heard this said that way before, but you tend to put your career first because you can measure it. And I think that's interesting because it's so true, right? There's certain things in life that are difficult to measure. And you always hear in business, like what gets measured gets improved. So you're always like showing KCIs and you're putting metrics towards things because you know that's what it takes to improve something. But how do you improve something that is in theory tough to measure or a little bit ambiguous of like, hey, am I being a good person?
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Scale from 1 to 10.
Yeah. And when you say it like that, it's you can't change yourself short of the grace of God, right? You can't change someone else either. You can't change someone else. You can't change yourself without the grace of God. And the priorities are so difficult because when you go back to your house, right, your kids, you can tell when those priorities start creeping, and your house might start, not falling apart, but you can tell your kids are starting to act up, or your relationship with your spouse is not as good. And oh, but I'm doing great in business. At the end of the day, is that truly where your priorities are? And that's been something I've been focusing on a lot, and that helps in that humility, because if those priorities are in line, everything else, that's work, right? It's not that it's not important, right? It's not that it's not important, but it is the priorities that how they lay. And yeah, that's just been a big push this year.
I feel like we're getting to a little bit of a pre, uh, maybe example of what your definition of success is, which we'll get into at the end. I want to back up a little bit. So you're in high school, you're playing sports, you're starting to have mentors pour into you, and with the right people come around you that are setting you on the trajectory that you found yourself on.
Yep.
Now, after high school, what did you end up doing? What were you interested in? I mean, you're working for a flooring company. I think about that phase,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So in the summers, I worked for the flooring company for the summers, and during winter breaks and such. But I was trying to decide if I wanted to play college sports. I really wanted to play basketball and soccer together. I had a couple scholarship offers to play soccer, and I took one. And my final travel game of my senior year, so this would have been spring of my senior summer. So it would be going into my freshman year of college. I was playing a travel game, and you know had an injury, a slight injury to my surgically repaired knee that I had two surgeries on already. And I remember praying about it, and just asking God, like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to continue on and go into college, play soccer? And ultimate answer I got was no. And that was very difficult to me, because I was dying to what I wanted to do, right? I really wanted to play soccer in college. Like, I loved soccer, I loved sports, loved the competition. So that was a difficult transition, but I stayed in Grand Rapids, went to Ferris State, downtown Grand Rapids, worked.
Is that the same school you were gonna play sports at?
No,
Ferris or
I was going to play at Trinity.
okay, Trinity.
Trinity, yep, in Chicago. So was going to go there, and so I stayed in Grand Rapids, worked full time at a furniture manufacturer with my cousin. It was a great time. I always say I didn't work that much because me and him would get a lot of work done together, and it was more craftsmanship kind of. It was working with aluminum, bending aluminum, uh, putting these products together. And me and him would get way ahead in our work, and we would be able to work on things that we wanted to work on. And the company was an awesome company that we were able to work at. So did that I worked probably 30 hours, 32 hours a week, went to school full time, and then I decided to start coaching with one of the coaches that was a huge impact on my life. When I said, "Hey, I'm gonna be not play soccer in college. I'm gonna stay in Grand Rapids." He's like, "Hey, you want to coach with me?" And so I ended up doing that as well. So I had a pretty full book my freshman through senior year. Didn't really have that much downtime.
And what was the degree that you're going to school for?
Yeah, I was going for criminal justice.
Okay.
So I really wanted something stable. My father having a very stable job through my whole high school career.
Did your parents go to college?
Yeah, yep. So they went to Liberty and then ended up like
Awesome.
Cornerstone. They were married at 19. So very,
Yeah, they went out of school.
yeah. Went to school, and um, my dad went for music theory, I believe, and to be a director or for orchestra. And then my mother's a bookkeeper of a CPA. But so I wanted a really stable job. My grandfather was a state trooper, and I had interest in that, and I wanted to do good by the community. I really wanted to pour into the community, and I saw being a police officer as that. Right, you see the uniform, you see how they interact with the community. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but I thought that could have a huge impact, in the steadiness of the job interests me. Um, but then I was able to do my internship my senior year, and again, God was tugging at my heart. I remember sitting there talking to Bailey, and I said, I don't know if God wants me to do this. In the internship, I saw the other side of police work, and those men and women are amazing. They're so hard workers and just under pressure all the time. Um, and said, I don't know if I should do this, Bailey. So we prayed about it, and God opened up another door. Every time I can look back in my life at these major decisions, and God just busts that door wide open, and you know, hopefully I, prayerfully enter that, or or if He closes it, then I walk away. Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Have you one other?
Chris, I was gonna say I want to circle back around to Bailey because you just randomly mentioned this name, and I know.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
I talked about it, yeah, but in a little bit. But first, I want to just draw another parallel to my story. I know you were curious about some of the things, in my story, my life, and things like that. And so when I was in high school, I actually wanted to be in the military. So I wanted to get in
Really?
military, Air Force, things like that. I was part of the CAP is like the junior Air Force type thing. I did that for a really long time. And then I was like, okay, that's not a very stable situation. And like, it's very high stress. You're going to be over whatever. So let's look into law enforcement. So at Grand Valley, they had this like junior police academy
Yeah.
in high school.
Yeah.
Did you do that as well? Or?
No, I did. Okay, I should have.
Yeah, I did that for like a week, and I can remember sitting at the table, all these people, very excited about the opportunity to get involved in law enforcement. You're learning so much, you're doing these drills and stuff, and it's awesome. Like you're learning so much. And then they like gave some stat, I don't remember the exact number, but about the divorce rate.
40%.
Is that what it is? So like it's a massive divorce rate in law enforcement. It's because of how much stress, how much pressure, like, and I walked away. I was like, nope, that's not gonna work. Like, there's so much that goes into ensuring or helping ensure that you have a successful marriage and things like that. Like, what can you do from a career side to help with that? And so I picked entrepreneurship, which I think the stats are probably worse. So I don't know how well.
Yeah, you trade one, it's trade one for the other.
But it's interesting that the parallel.
Yeah, especially with the carpentry, the
Yeah.
stability, right? Your dad probably went through the recession, and you saw that. You were probably a little older than myself at that time. But yeah, the divorce rate, I remember my mom saying something like, "Hey, have you thought about that?"
Yeah.
And I was dating my wife, Bailey. She's a saint. She's the best.
Now she's been introduced.
Yeah. So Bailey Kershaw, now Bailey Seeley. Been married for 6 years. Have two wonderful children. Have one on the way. She has had. She has made me so much better as a person. From the day that I met her, I knew I wanted to marry her, which we can go into that later. But
And this was in high school or college?
college. So my sister was her RA, and I met her once and said, I want to talk to that person. And over time, 3 years later, I was able to talk to her. And the first time I met her, I said, I'm gonna marry you. She was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
But I knew out that.
She doesn't say like this happens all the time.
No, yeah, oh yeah, she has like a broom hitting all the other guys off, right? But I remember, so we were dating at the time. So that would have been, we were dating 2 years. I met my sophomore year, her senior year. So she's 2 years, 2.5 years older than me. And we were talking, and she's like, this is my senior year at this point. She's like, I think I've come around to you being a police officer. And I said, oh, that's great. Well, I just got offered a sales job. And she's like, you waited this long? And I said, I didn't wait. I been praying about it, and it just ended. Like, I felt this massive push in my back, and this job came up, and she's like, well, are you gonna take it? And I said, I don't know. I got to think about it more, but just wanted to let you know, because we were dating at the time. It was really serious, but I just, had to think about it. And her father, or my father-in-law, my other dad, he is one of those people that has just meant so much to me in my life, that has just changed the course of my life, I would say, as well. One of those other mentors, I would say.
In what ways?
The humility that he approaches life, how he honors his wife, honors God with how he attacks the day, how he does business. He's just an awesome person, and he has had an impact on my life in the way that, I'll call him and say, hey, I have this business question. And he goes, oh, you do this, do this, do this. What do you think? Do you want it? Is this the right move? And so he's been able to dive into these subjects where I don't know the answer, but he's just stepped into that role and just, been a rock for me. And it's been amazing.
So I know we're only halfway through your story. There's a lot to dive into,
Yeah.
but what I have noticed is that you are very attuned to, or you have a way to see other people in your life and learn the aspects of what they're doing, of how you want to mirror it. So like certain mentors that have come into your life, you've recognized that, hey, they're a good person and something that I want to emulate the way that they're acting, and you found those positive people in your life to do that with.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times, like, our natural inclination is like, oh, I'll figure it out. Like, I can do it myself.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't hesitate to pick up the phone. Like, here's someone that displays this attribute of life that I want to also display. Let's ask them about it. Right?
Yeah.
And you're confident doing that, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. And I've been very, very blessed in the way that those people have been open to share with that. Like, even my friends, I look at, the 5 people around you are the makeup of who you are, and the 5 friends, right? I think that's a common phrase.
It's something people say.
Yeah, I think so. But you know, being able to use other people as resources, and I don't do well reading the books, like I struggle reading, and that's been that struggle my whole life. But being able to ask people from their experience and their knowledge, they're 20 years ahead of me, 10 years, even 5 years, or even a day older than me. They have experiences that I have never done, and I want to learn from that. So I try to use all my time to connect with people, to understand their story, like how you kind of do on this podcast, is I want to hear your story because how do I implement what you did, the rights, the wrongs, into my life, right? So that's been something that I've been doing a lot, and it's just been awesome to work through that and also build those relationships because the people that are open are, such a blessing to me. Have you had that experience in your, entrepreneurial life?
I maybe should have had more intentionality with reaching out to certain people in my life because I know that they were there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just like would stick my head down and be like, I'll figure it out. And I look back, I'm like, man, I always did everything the hard way. Why did I do that? Like there was a guy standing right next to me. If I would have just asked him, he would have been like, oh no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Careful, that's hot.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like, oh cool, I'll put my hand on that, right?
Yes, sometimes it's important to get burned, and also those people have been burned, and they know the severity of it. And that's something I'm in a group called Truth at Work. It's a business Christian mix where where your faith and your work intersect, right? And we can talk about everything under the sun. The spiritual aspect, the family aspect, the work aspect. But it is crazy to me that when I have an issue, it shouldn't be crazy anymore. Um, but when I have an issue, at work or at home or in my spiritual life, I'll come to a meeting once a month and be like, "Oh, here's my hot topic. I'm struggling with this," and they're like, "Oh, last year this person struggled with that. Hey, this is not alone. Yeah. Oh, wow, we're not alone. Here you go. This is how we did it. This might be the right answer, but if we get you 90% there, man, I didn't have to go through 3 months of struggle." And those people are just rock stars for me. I can lean on them, ask them questions. I called one on the way over, asking a question, and those people have impacted my life already, and I've only been in that group for about 3 years now. But
Do you have any advice for someone that is trying to be the type of person that people want to mentor? So maybe I didn't phrase that question very well,
okay,
but it's the idea of like, hey, how when I call someone, do I ask in such the way or like approach them in such a way that they want to help?
yeah, good question. I think the willingness to learn and the willingness to listen is the number one thing. Like, I'm most of the time, the people that I ask to hear from are like Terry Dwyer is one of my mentors. He is my mentor. He always says to me, Caleb, you're just willing to listen and learn, and you're trying to get better. I feel like a lot of people are in it for the quick wins, especially in business. We live in a generation where, you can blow up on TikTok and do amazing things. And, that's great. God's blessed you in that way. But, I always say I'm in it for the next 40 years. I'm 28 years old, 68, I'm not going to be complete, but, I'll be further along in my journey. Um, so I always just, hey, what can I learn? What's your experience? How can I, glean from your world? And if they're open, that's great. And there's some people that just they're busy. They have kids. They got grandkids. They're flying across the country. It's a difficult thing, but if you can, get a meeting, a coffee with them, and just listen to their story, I think that's you can learn so much from listening to people's story and what can I take from that? And not just business connections, right? I've been so blessed to be exposed to so many business people. There's one developer that we're building a building for, and the impact he's had on his company. He was explaining, he's like, hey, we're all toolbox and we're all tools in this toolbox of this company, right? He's like, I do this. Matt Conley does the development. Tim is the development leader. This person does the recycling, and it's so uh, you know, we're all tools in this toolbox and willing to learn, is what I've, learned from my mentors, just be willing to learn.
The willingness to learn, I love that. And like when someone's having uh taking the time to dedicate to you, and maybe they've achieved certain levels of success in life and marriage and business, whatever, you've reached out to them for a reason and they're willing to take the time to have that conversation with you. The best thing that you can do is listen and actually absorb what they're saying and then take that and do something with it.
Yeah.
Right. Might not be everything, but take one thing and do something. The next time you talk to them, just say, hey, because you said this, I did this. And they'll be like, okay, when do you want to meet next? I'm going to tell you 5 more things. You actually get something, but
Yeah, wow, I wish it's funny, some people say, "I wish my kid did that." It's like that's been an interesting thing that I wanna get, learn through is, as a father, I want that relationship with my kids where hopefully they learn from me, and I know they will, right? Um, but I wanna be able to teach business lessons and all these different things, and, some of them say, "Yeah, I wish my kid would listen," and maybe they're being a little sarcastic, but also, you know, at the end of the day, like, I want that, I want to be able to pass down lessons that I learned from, uh, great-grandparents, right? Bailey's great-grandpa, was selling eggs in Gary, Indiana, and then he built 2 businesses, built a farm, did all these different things, and was uber successful, but, he was selling eggs in Gary, Indiana to start his married life and with 2 kids. So passing on those experiences, I wanna do that. So being willing to learn, implement, and then, share your story. Hopefully one day someone will ask you, "Hey, I would love to grab coffee." Great. Like, I wanna do that because I think, uh, that's gonna be important in this next age where, we have a lot of boomers getting older, and then, um we have Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I think Alpha is the one below that. And hearing those experiences and passing them on is super important. So
I think you're talking a lot about family and a lot about mentorship within your faith and within your family. And I just continue to think back to even being an employee or being an employer, how that coachability aspect of it, if you're looking at ways to improve in the way you're performing at work or the way that you're showing up to your employer as an employee,
yeah,
one of the best things you can be is just coachable, right? Just come in with that hunger and excitement to learn, that curiosity to say, hey, I don't really understand. Can you help me understand? And like just asking the questions and then actually,
implement.
making it into a scenario where it's like, uh, I don't have to repeat myself over and over. You're not asking me the same question over and over, but you're genuinely curious because you want to improve and want to get better. Like that is a great opportunity for achieving maybe the next level in your business, like,
Yeah,
or as an employee as well.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Do you get that a lot being an owner? I mean, you're doing all these different things. Have you noticed people asking you questions, those deep questions that you're like, oh, you have to take a step back?
Yeah, certain times, and then also other times when you've had the opportunities to work with other business leaders or your own employees, and you get together and have conversations, and it's a lot of like, okay, we need to make sure that we're hiring for heart, not just head, right? We need to make sure that we're hiring for people that actually care and have genuine questions and are curious, more
Yeah.
than people that show up and are super smart and like just don't care. I mean, there's a balance there, right? But also understanding those that are curious, want to ask good questions, and want to grow, want to be better. They don't have all of the answers,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a balance.
Yeah, and I was at a Christian business and round table, uh, and there was the CEO of GFS. Forgot his name, Steve, I believe it was. May be wrong. But, it's a standard, approach to, team building, but he is going through his whole company, going to every branch, going into every warehouse, going to everything and every place and saying, here's 3 whiteboards: characteristics, knowledge, and traits. List the best bosses, characteristics, knowledge, and traits. I believe that it was traits was the last one, but list them out, put them on a sticky note, good, bad, good being green, bad being red, and stick them on the board. And we did this at the round table, and characteristics was number one. There was probably 95%, I would say, of all the sticky notes on characteristics and not on knowledge and not on traits. It was about 2.5%, 2.5%. And hiring the right person, you can usually, outside of being a lawyer, doctor, attorney, the ones that you gotta know your stuff. In business, it's being curious and being willing to be wrong is a huge plus. And I look at all my best bosses. Uh, I've worked for one where is just he is the most humble person I've ever met in my whole entire life. And it's something I admire so much about him. And I want to just keep gleaning from him. And he's not my boss any longer. Um, but he just is very special in that aspect of just, being humble. And I need that in my life. And he's been just a huge blessing in that life. But the characteristics are so important. Those soft, tangible skills that, you can tell when someone has it, they have the characteristic of your company. Because when you bring in, a rock star, the smartest person in the room, they could be the smartest person in the room, but they could say all the wrong things and, ruin a deal, ruin a team culture. Um, they had the resume. Well, they ruined the team. And that's the number one thing.
Yeah. So I want to take a step back a little bit. Koyobi, introduce Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
You did us. You mentioned that I just got my first offer as to get into sales.
Yeah.
But like, how did that all happen, come about, and what was that role?
Yeah. So we were sitting at practice. It was a Tuesday. I remember it was Tuesday. Todd Hookstra, amazing man, godly man. And I said, "Hey, Todd, I told Bailey last night, I don't think I'm going to be in criminal justice. I don't think I'm going to be a police officer." He's like, "Well, this is great. Yeah, my friend's looking for a sales guy. You'd be amazing at it. I'll connect you right after practice." I was like, "Whoa, slow down. What do you mean connect me right after practice?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I think you'd do great. I think you'd be great." And that role was a sales representative for a commercial snow removal company, Sneller, Snow and Grounds. They're in Byron Center. And it's like, "Hey, I'll connect you. Give him a call and see what the role is all about." Really excited. This is exactly what I was praying for, leading up to this, telling Bailey all these things were unraveling. You know, I went to school to be a police officer, and that's not going to be the thing anymore. And my ego of, oh, my diploma says this. Is this okay to do this? I don't know. And so I get in the interview. It was a 3 hour long interview because me and the owner had just an amazing conversation. It was just literally sat across from each other on the table. He had his laptop. He was working on something. He was just like, "So tell me about yourself. Tell me. Don't talk about work. Tell me about yourself." And he believes fully in the company because, one, the owner has to be successful. I feel like that's a trait that you have to believe in what you're selling, right? And he's like, "We provide the best service in town. We have the best people in town, and I can sleep well at night knowing that." And that's something that I loved about Sneller was I could truly say, I could go in a truck and say, "Hey, Matt, like, thanks for, cleaning up this parking lot, of this doctor's office." Like, no one slipped and fell in the parking lot. Uh, and I could shake the hand of the person that did that and being part of that crew, that team. I loved waking up and going to check on the sites that I was able to work with, some of the manufacturers in town, where I could just go at 2 a.m., drive up to the site, see who's driving the plow truck, who's driving the salt truck, the sidewalk crew. I'd jump out, shovel it with them, and being part of the team, right? Feeling part of that force that was gonna, get rid of the snow, right? uh, was just really special. So it had the ability to, be a salesman there, and it was a great start of my career. Taught me a lot about business. It was the grind of business, the ebb and flows of seasons, in life and in business. So, wonderful start of my career.
So what are some of the biggest like sales related things that you had to learn, right? Because you came from a background that wasn't sales. Yes, you have genuine curiosity and you have a degree in criminal justice, but then you got into a sales rep role, which, some of it might feel natural, but also some of it probably was a little bit like, okay, this is different. What are some of the biggest things you had to learn?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was very alarming to me when your whole life, going back to, sweeping the floors. My boss said, "Sweeping floors?" And that's what I did. Take care of the saws. That's what I did.
Mm,
High school, right? Go to this class. Do this. Soccer. Do these drills. And that repetition of, do this. And of course, I wanted to learn more and do all that. But, your whole life leading up to your role, you never dropped into a spot and so you tell us.
so figure it out.
Figure it out. Which, like there's some of that in, growing up, but uh in the role, I remember Tim Bassett, who was a pastor at Crossroads, was one of my coworkers at the time. And there's no playbook. There's no playbook like, "Hey, Caleb, do this and it'll all work out." And it's like, it's not like that in sales, right? It's cold calls, it's networking events, it's connecting with people, it's being at the right place, right time, some of the time, right? And that was, so your question was, what did I learn in that
Yeah.
first role? Um, there's more of a grind, a mental grind that you have to prepare yourself for sales. It's not, what it's all cracked up to be. It's, oh, you get to golf. You get to have lunch with people. At the end of the day,
You always get to PL me.
yeah,
It always works out.
yeah, yeah. It always,
So
yeah, yeah. If I was never gonna know, I, would be, not in the house I am,
yeah.
but yeah, you got to answer for that. Whether or not, Jeff, the owner of Snell at the time, would never come in and be like, "Oh, went out to lunch with it. Tell me what you got out of that conversation." He would never do that. But, intrinsically, I thought that, like, it's like, I got to answer for this. I got to answer for my time. I gotta prove that I can, provide for the company. Um, and I loved walking out on the floor and meeting people talking about the sites that, we sold. It was amazing. We sold a elderly care facility where it had unique flowers, and, we were gonna redo the whole landscape, and the guys were talking about how excited they were, and that just fired me up to go back and start cold calling again. And the grind of sales is just, it's, you know no one prepared me for that. And it's exciting, but you got to make sure you are answering for the work that you're putting in, because you can't, you know, 30% success rate is awesome in the snow removal world for getting contracts, but um, it's, you got to answer for the work that you put in, and no one's going to give you a playbook.
Maybe not an easy question to answer, but why did you care so much? you went into these situations with an owner mentality. You mentioned how when you had the first interview, it was 3 hours, and the owner poured into you about how great the company is. So you bought into the culture, and you're like, okay. And then you went out to the floor, and you saw you experienced some of that. But like, why did you care so much?
I That's a great question. I love the community that I'm where God is calling me to. I love seeing the benefits of my labor because sales, it's this, when you win a contract, yes, it's on paper, but really it's kind of, there's no fruits of my labor when you're doing cabinets or doing wood flooring. I can look at, oh, I just laid 1,500 square foot of wood flooring, in a day. That was great. In sales, it's, oh, we won a contract. Well, let's go to the next one. Um, and being able to see the benefit of adding 5 more employees and coworkers, adding 5 more people to the team, adding the best. Like I wanted to sell the best sites because that meant that we would get the best people on our team, so that the customer would get the best value of what I talked about, and then I could keep those team members in in the company. That meant so much to me just because I get to see him every day. It was that locker room mentality. It's I get to be with these people every day. So I want the best people working with me, right? I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want the the smartest people in the room, so then, they can do their job, right? Um and I think that's why I cared so much, and I still do. At Wolverine Building Group, jumping ahead. I know I'm jumping around a lot, but seeing the steel crews put up these buildings, it just makes me so happy.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy. I know I've brought a couple of my friends to work at Wolverine. Been very blessed by that, and being able to share those experiences with people I like is awesome. Sam Hybor is one of my great friends now. We spend a lot of time together on job sites, and then I go to a site with him and I see the steel crew putting up a 200,000 square foot building. That's impressive. Like sales down here, to what you guys do is so important. You are so valued. You are I see what you do. I hear what you say, and you matter so much to me that it's incredible what these crews can do.
Or working for a place that you can jump in each day and you see that makes the sales part a little bit easier, right?
Yeah,
That belief and that understanding of the impacts.
yeah, and I think that's why I chosen the career, the service industry. Why I like the service industry is because I get to see the benefit. Where if I work just for a CM, construction manager, I wouldn't see any crews. They're not ours. I would sell the contract and, oh, let's just hire out everyone. No, I want the most carpenters. I want the most steel crew. I want the painters. I want to bring all these services in because, man, we get to be part of the team.
Yeah.
So that's what really excites me.
So how long were you at Seller?
I was at Seller for 4 years, I believe.
In the same kind of sales role throughout it, or
Yeah, it progressed over time. Again, I was very blessed. Jeff and Dan over there had a great team member, Brian, who's head of account management.
tell you what, Caleb, you have an amazing knack for names. I just the amount of names that you've had. Or yeah, he's like, no, it's amazing because I'm like, shoot, I forget names all the time, so it's a skill, and obviously you've learned that through your sales process, and it's just incredible skill. I just want
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been going off that. I think those people have such a tremendous impact on my life that I can't forget them.
yeah.
I see him at events, and I saw Jeff at a breakfast one day, and I was just like, hey, thank you for what you took a risk on me. You, I was a college kid with a criminal justice career. What did I know?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. But Brian, he was great. He helped me out, how how to structure myself in the world, because he was working at Sneller. He worked in the industry for 15 years. He knew, what I had to do. So he kind of helped me out with the playbook, honestly. He's like, I don't know the sales thing, but I know how to work in this industry. So let me help you. And he did. But so I started as a sales representative, and then sales and account management, and then I was able to become the head of sales for the team. So they were opening up. We were trying to open up 5 branches in total. One in Kalamazoo, one in Lansing, one in Auburn Hills, and Grand Rapids, and then Grand Rapids North. And we were able to start. Lansing was already up and going, and we hired a salesman there. And then we were trying to open Kalamazoo, and they did, and they're still doing that. But I was able to work with some sales guys, and I learned a lot about myself in that time as a sales manager. I would just call it
The sales. And then at that time in your life too, you married and you're starting a family and trying to navigate all of that as well. Did you find that difficult, or was that kind of natural for you?
I love, yeah. It wasn't difficult, I would say, because of the time that Sneller allowed me. They were a huge family company. Like, they said it all the time. It's like families comes before work, and they knew that. They always said that. They truly believe that. I remember he would send home some of the salt truck drivers, and he would hop in a salt truck because those guys need rest. And he would hop in it, and I'm like, man, that is servant leadership right there. Hey, hit the road. I'm gonna hop in. I'll go. Go home to your family. That that is impressive. But I was starting. Kennedy was born, or I think I found out we were pregnant at Sneller, and I left shortly before she was born. But starting a family, the balance of being young, married, and working through career, family, all those priorities, was still an adventure. But I don't think it's been hard because of Bailey, who she is. She helps balance those tables very, very well.
At times, does she have to realign you, or is it a scenario where it's like, when you're home, you can be present, or at times does she have to kind of pull you back in? Be like, hey, Caleb.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I know you love your job and what you do, but
So yeah, loving my job and loving the calling where God has put me is a very tedious thing to work through. I have the tendency, as most sales guys do, to be very social and very, you know, I will, if you look at my schedule, I will schedule things at night, networking events, to meeting people for drinks or whatever. Um, but where is the priority? She understands the grind of sales, because her dad runs his company. Um, but also family, spouse comes before even kids. And so I check in with her a lot. I probably call her 4 times a day. I'm one of those guys. Hey, what's going on? How can I help? Just catching out. But I can tell when those things get out of whack. Where I'm not home, the kids get a little squirrely, and you can visibly see it. And that's where I got to recenter, have the tough conversation where I've not done my role that was, specifically called out by God, right? And it's a difficult, humbling experience, and it's awesome. So yeah, I'll get to do it. You probably have the same thing, right?
well, what I respect in what you're describing and what you're saying is that you can see it. And I don't think it's as clear to everyone as it is to you. And like, you're jumping in the scenario and you're saying, hey, you can visibly see some of these things, but there's times that I know that in businesses, like, I'm just so focused on some things that sometimes I just don't see it. Right.
Yeah.
And I should. And I think it's definitely gotten better. And there are scenarios today where you're like, okay, I definitely see it pretty clearly now.
Yeah,
I
talk
grew
on the
up.
wall, crayon. Yeah, yeah.
The sign on the door, what does that mean?
Yeah, your wife's hair is just standing up, and you're like, "Oh, hey, you're coming back with your coffee." And she's like, "Where were you?" And it's like,
I should have seen that.
"Yeah, yeah,
No, but I think that that is just something that, intentionally it's good to, I had a friend on the show, Ken Bovary, he wrote the book
yeah,
No Honesty, and talks a lot about like how to, have open and honest conversations, right? But sometimes, and he talks about this too, but sometimes we just need to, take a step back and just even being honest with ourselves and just like auditing, hey, where are we at? And how are we doing in certain areas? And just like not shoving things under the rug about like, oh yeah, I have things under balance or I am balanced, but just being truthful and just saying, oh no, I'm out of balance right now. And like, how am I going to get back in balance? Is it a season? Have we communicated that this is a season? Or do we need to readjust and realign on things as well? So I just appreciated the way that you described, like, hey, you can see it, but some people need to, stop and say, hey, I'm going to be looking for those things because you don't see them if you don't look at it.
yeah." And asking God to reveal those things to you, I think is important. And you know, if you can't change yourself short of the grace of God. So why would I expect, my wife to mold to who I am if I can't change myself? You know, that's a harsh reality. So I have to, focus on that every single day. And if I'm focusing so much on work and not devoting that time to the right priorities, then yeah, it's out of whack. And I need to correct that as a man, as a man of God. And that you carry that weight. You also carry that weight, at being the head of the household, and that's a tough weight sometimes.
At the beginning of our conversation, you gave a story and example about how you were changing brakes with your dad and you guys took off and it wasn't exactly right. It's like, no, we're going to do this right.
Yep.
And I can see time and time again throughout your story how you've displayed that in different areas of your life. Whether, hey, I'm doing a sales job, I'm going to do this right. Like, I'm going to do it right for the company. I'm going to do it right for the owner. And then stop, we're going to do it right. And I think that's, what's led you on this journey that you're on and towards this definition of success we're trying to get at in a little bit here. But tell me a little bit about, what you're doing today. I know you've brought up Wolverine. We've briefly talked about it, but what is your role today? And
Yeah.
a little bit about what your day looks like.
Yeah. So I currently work for Wolverine Building Group in the sales realm of things, and so I'm a sales manager, and we got a really good sales team that works at Wolverine, and but I primarily focus on the industrial world because again, I love seeing the crews. I love seeing the work that Wolverine does. Not I love our trade partners as well, but I love seeing what Wolverine does physically. So I started out at Wolverine as a assistant project manager, and that was something that Kurt, the owner, who I was able to be poured into uh, through connection. Someone was like, "Hey, you got to meet with Kurt Mulder. It'd be really good for you. I think you need to talk to him." And Kurt, uh, if you ever have the opportunity, I should introduce you. He he humble leader, humble leader. And the first time I met him, he didn't talk about all the things that he's doing. He was the team. He started as a intern in the shop, and then worked his way all the way up to ownership, which is inspiring. And just the humility that he approaches this day. It's not about him. That's something really important. So yeah, so I got connected, and I've been at Wolverine for about 3 years, been in the sales role for about 2 years, because I had to learn, Kurt said, you gotta learn who we are to sell who we are. And I appreciate that first year because the coworker that he placed me with, Daniel Zilzer, he is a rock star. He's Venezuelan immigrant. He is a hardworking gentleman that just has a hunger to do the right thing every single time. It's been a joy, and now we're really good friends. I was able to go to his wedding. It's super special. The team that we have and the industrial group.
I love that, and I love the way that you've described, the different leaders throughout your life and that you've had the opportunity to learn from and work for, and also what motivates you. I know that typically when you're thinking about a sales role, it's like, okay, you sit down, your sales manager or whoever sit down with you and say, what are your financial goals? Like you always, it's not always, but a lot of times it's financial driven so that you can figure out compensation plans and things like this so that you can align to ensure that you're motivated by money. You're right. Hey, how do I make more money? And some of the most successful salespeople are very motivated by feeling. It seems like that's not the number one motivation for you.
It's not, but it does play a role, right? You can't just expect in the business world, the value that you bring to a company is very important, right? Like you can't just have someone sitting in the corner. Well, he's a good guy. That doesn't cut it, right? And so, yeah, money is part of it, but money has fallen down the priority list. Because if I'm being a good person, honoring the company, honoring the client, being a servant to um, the client or customer, it will return in the value of hopefully financial success, or if God blesses the other way, praise God. But, if I'm doing, a servant attitude, it'll return, right? Like how I said earlier, I'm going to be doing this for 40 years. I had a customer last week where he said, "Hey, I need 30,000 square feet of industrial space." I said, "Oh, that's great. Let me come look at your space. Let me look at your process." And I walked in the space, and there's some unused space, some space that wasn't used wisely. You know all about this world. I don't, but I'm learning more and more from people like yourself. And through the time, I said, "Hey, I don't think building is the correct decision right now. I can provide a contact for warehouse space. I can provide a plant floor simulation engineer, or I can do an addition, but I don't think that's right for you." And he's like, "Oh man." It's like the other guy wanted to build 40,000 square feet. And I said, "Oh, well, I may be wrong. I may be wrong." But he called me again, and he's like, "Thank you so much. Like we squared away the process. We, changed the racking, did all these things, but I'm going to call you next time when I'm going to build. Yeah. I trust you." And that trust and that loyalty, if I have a servant attitude, it will come back around, maybe good, maybe bad, I can't expect everything to be good, but, uh, you know, the Lord has blessed me in that way, in the contacts that I've made. But it was a great example of, I'm going to be here for 40 years. I'm going to make sure that you're taken care of, because if I get a contract this year and then it wasn't the right thing, the next 39 years are toast.
Yeah. I'm not seen as a trusted advisor because I gave you bad advice.
Exactly. I see it too many times. Builder will put on that builder's hat and go, "I'm gonna build this building for you," and that's not always the right thing. Um, Maybe it's a smaller building, maybe it is a bigger building. There's one um, contact that said, "I just need this much," and I said, "Well, you could do a couple things and lease this area out." And it's like, I never thought of that. Yeah. So there's always two sides of the coin, and the building got bigger. So, but doing the right thing by the client and doing what I would think I would want to do and giving my recommendation. Hopefully they take it, maybe they don't, and that's their decision.
I love that. And your approach into sales as well. And as you're thinking through, let's go way back. Let's go back to you're sweeping the floors for the carpenter. You're kind of showing up at 11 and doing what you're told, putting a smile on your face, working hard, trying to learn. But you don't know what the future holds for you. You don't know, hey, I might be doing this the rest of my life, right? I might I might end up playing sports. I might end up playing soccer. Maybe that's what I'm gonna be doing. Don't really know. If you could go back and tell yourself one thing, or a little piece of advice, or like something to think about at 11 years old, working for the carpenter, what would you say to yourself?
God's got an amazing story that he's going to reveal to you. And stop worrying about tomorrow. Today's all that matters, right? Uh, the only thing guaranteed is today. And I'm oh, I get a little anxious sometimes about, planning for the future, planning, as a sales guy, planning out your pipeline, stacking your deals and figuring that out. And, it's futile. God is truly in control. And if I really think that I'm in control, I'm in trouble. And I need to rely on Christ. So if I could go back to my younger self, yeah, God's got a story for you. And hang on, because it's not going to be where you think. Every twist and turn in my life, you know, did I know where it was going? No. Like having a conversation, coaching soccer with someone that has a friend that's looking for a sales guy. Seeing going to see my sister at Calvin and seeing my future wife there. All these things are not produced by me, right? All these doors that opened, all these opportunities, all these failures, um, you know, are part of my story. So, just hang on. Like I think rely on Christ in the story that He's gonna unveil to you.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, and also the don't stress about the future. God has a plan for you, but show up today, right? And show up in those different scenarios and be present in what you're doing at that moment in that time.
Yeah, because even in your failures, you know, uh, so let's say, you know, I get, you know, uh, a struggle in business, maybe get let go or something like that. How do I know that God is not going to use that story for his glory? And someone you might also get let go and don't know what to do. Well, just like my leadership group. Well, we got 20 people that have been let go of their job. This is what you need to do as a man, or as a woman, uh, in your career, in your job, in your family. These are the things that I did wrong. Here, this is how you can do it better than me. And that's where, those failures in life, are such opportunities. You hear it all the inventors of the world, their failures, if they got it perfect the first time, you never hear that. It's always all the years of preparation, all the mentors, all the books they've read, all these different things led into the culmination of the perfect product, service, or anything like that. Um, but it's through those failures that you learn so much. Through changing the brakes and seeing the smoke billow out when you pull up to the stop. I don't think that's right. No, it's not. No, it's not. And learning through those failures, doing the right thing, and going back and fixing it, is the benefit of that.
So love it. And thank you so much, Go, for being on and sharing your story and your journey. It's definitely, inspiring to those that are in sales and can take maybe a step back and just understand like, hey, these are things that I should be focusing on. Maybe I'm spending too much time focusing over here, but this is really what I should be focusing on. Also, those that are, maybe in high school, or those that are trying to understand what their future looks like, in that piece of advice that you gave, I know is going to be very helpful. So thank you so much for that. Now, when I get to the last question here real quickly, but I do again, if people want to, follow along with you or get connected with you, what's the best way to do that?
I'm active on LinkedIn. Send me a message, or um, my email's not very difficult to find. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably the easiest way. I'm not active on the other socials. I kind of disassociated with those.
Yeah.
But
LinkedIn's where it's at.
yeah, LinkedIn is such a great asset for people like myself. But also going back, I know we're wrapping up, but I feel like a lot of times in those high school conversations, I wish I would have known the the opportunities that were out there. You were taught you got police officers, you got builders, you got nursing, you got doctors, lawyers. You know, who would have thought that there's plant floor engineers that focus on maximizing their efficiency? Who would have thought that I didn't even know what an architect was in high school. Um, Someone said, "Oh, my dad's an architect." I was like, "Oh, cool. Don't know what that means." Um, those high school people, I think I'm very passionate about. Providing those opportunities or talking about those opportunities, showing someone, their kids in high school, like let them ask questions, let them get connected to someone that's in the field or a different field that they never heard of, because they might like it. I never thought that I'd be interested in commercial snow removal. I loved it, and I would have never known about it. Just assumed that, the parking lots were clean.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sorry, that was a little.
I love you highlighting that, and it draws on some recent conversations I even had with a local university and some other schools, just about how they're attuned and aware of some of those things too. Is like, hey, our education system in the university specifically I'm thinking about is like, hey, we structure our programming this a specific way, and it puts people in this type of box almost. But there's so much more that they're doing. Like none of them, but the majority of them aren't even doing the thing that we put them in the box to do and train them specifically to do. So how do we help segment that out a little bit more and help them understand, hey, there's all of these different paths. Do you want to own your own business? Do you want to get into snow removal? Do you want to whatever? And helping them understand, and then being a little bit more flexible with how they're trained to get there. So
Yeah, giving those opportunities and showing them is so big, because if you didn't know, you just don't know. Commercial real estate was another thing. No one knows that until you're in the building world, or like someone's like, "Oh, my father was your mother was a broker." No one knows. So providing those opportunities.
but what we can glean from your story too is like, even though that wasn't taught to you or isn't taught to others in the education system, still you can go and ask.
Yep.
And then listen and hear what's being said and then take action on it, right? That might mean you pick up a book. That might mean you go ask someone else. That might mean you go and search YouTube or ask AI or wherever it means. But you have resources. Just ask people and listen to what they have to say.
Exactly.
So let's get into the last sounds good question here, Caleb. As you think through your story, as you think through, how things have changed for you, what's important to you, what is your definition today of success?
My definition today in success is aligning those priorities, and honoring God, honoring my wife, you know, getting those priorities in mind are truly true success. Because if any of those are out of line, are you know, it just falls apart, right? And so that's how I define true success: is getting God on the throne, and honoring Him, honoring my wife, honoring my kids, all the same, and then everything else in that category. And having that foundation will propel you so far. Getting those priorities correct will propel you so far, and has helped me in what I view success. It's not about my name being all over LinkedIn. It's not my success in sales. It's not my success in my golf game. I perfected my golf game. Oh, that's not a success. This all will bones will turn back to ashes. And if I truly think that this world is my home, then I'm wrong. So success is putting those priorities in line. So that's how it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for your definition and for coming on the Engineer Success podcast and telling your story. It's been awesome having you here.
Yeah, no, it's been great. So thanks so much.